All right, call the Osseo City Council regular meeting to order here on Monday, October 28th at 7:02 p.m. Roll call. Looks like we have all members with us this evening. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
All right, got a motion by Councilmember Hallstrom to approve tonight's agenda. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Cook. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, number 5, consent agenda. Any questions on that? If not, we look for a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to pull letter F for more discussion.
Okay. Comments? Would you like to make a motion
Make a
approving the
motion
rest
to
of
pull
those?
letter F for further discussion, approve the rest.
Okay, we've got a motion by Councilmember Hallstrom to approve the consent agenda minus F for further discussion. Is there a second? on that?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Hall. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, discussing now 5F for further discussion.
Mr. Mayor, as we read in our packet, there was a 30-day notice given, and it was accepted as an immediate resignation. And I guess I'd just like to understand, and I also know that the person that gave the resignation is here tonight.
Okay. Is there any clarification?
Nothing that I can give. It's a internal HR matter.
Okay. Okay. With that, was there a motion or?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we've got a motion by Councilmember Hallstrom to accept the resignation. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Schultz. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, next is matters from the floor. Any wishing to speak, please step forward, state your name, address the council.
Nick Torres, 133 8th Avenue Northeast, Osseo, Minnesota. Good evening, Your Honor, council, and staff. Just a couple of quick words. So these days, it's very easy to become jaded and cynical and even despondent towards the world we live in. And I know because I found myself thinking as such on various occasions. An unintentional Grinch, if you will. But I want to say that last Saturday showed that this doesn't need to be so. I'd like to thank Mark Wiedenbach and the rest of the Lions Club members for the Osseo Children's Halloween event, and especially the Boo Tour. It was an honor to participate in such a fun and fulfilling experience. I'd also like to thank the council and our fellow Osseo businesses for all they did as well to make it such a success. A special shout out to Teresa for helping me with a last minute decoration assist, so thank you. It's community events such as this that are a great reminder that the aforementioned world isn't necessarily as bad as we may think it is, and the smile of a happy child can truly melt a sometimes Grinch's heart, and actually the future can be very bright indeed. Just real quick, I have an additional separate topic thing that literally just I wrote down as I was watching the working session, and just kind of some food for thought. And now I guess I got to say this. I am not saying this as a licensed attorney, so this is not legal advice. It's just a citizen thought. There was a lot of discussion about, okay, if we tie cannabis to cigarette license, how do we keep them from just buying a $250 tobacco license without any intention whatsoever to sell tobacco? in order to kind of backdoor their way into the sale of cannabis. So I just made a quick note to myself that one potential solution to that may be when council is deciding and working with Mary on the actual language of the ordinances to put in a requirement that if they are purchasing, or if anybody purchases for that matter, a tobacco license, that it is done in good faith. And putting in a good faith requirement could keep people from just simply paying $250, never intending whatsoever to sell tobacco. And I think that may curtail some of the 250 backdooring that could occur, because good faith is going to be what these you all folks determine is good faith. And again, without speaking from a legal standpoint, one thing that I am reminded of back when I was in school was this concept of rational basis test and having a legitimate, all you need is a legitimate reason to come up with the ordinances that you do. And after hearing Minister Michelson, when he put his police hat on, I think there might be a rational basis test that could be in the council's favor for doing such when the police chief says, hey, this is going to be a nightmare. How do we control it? So again, I didn't have any prepared thoughts on that, but I just thought I'd mention that. So thank you and good evening.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Nick, congratulations on getting your law license. He was just sworn in last Friday.
Any other matters to the floor?
I just have a question on 10E, closed session. What's that for? I think there has to be some transparency instead of just having approve. What are you approving? So that's all I have.
Good afternoon. My name's Justin Engelmann. I'm the CSO that you just accepted the resignation for. Today, I stand before you with a decision that came with a heavy heart. Serving the city of Osseo has been one of my greatest honors that I've experienced. The bonds I've forged in the department and in the community are invaluable, and I will carry those memories with me for the rest of my life. However, tonight, I wanted to bring to your attention leadership within the city. Leadership is more than just about making decisions. It's about listening. It's about engaging and valuing the voices of those you lead. Unfortunately, I've seen too many talented and passionate officers feel sidelined, disheartened, and sometimes even leave for other departments, regardless of what you've been told. I've seen the lack of open communication and support that has stifled creativity, innovation, leaving many of us feeling frustrated and undervalued. So it is crucial to address the realities that have contributed to my decision to leave. While I've experienced many positive aspects as a CSO and as a reserve, I've also witnessed significant challenges, primarily stemming from poor management at the highest of levels. Our chief of police, who is meant to be the guiding force for our department, has created an environment that has often felt divisive and unresponsive. First, for the CSO program, in my opinion, as a CSO for just over 12 months, the chief had abdicated his responsibilities for the program for well over 10 months until I broached the conversation in an email. My email was met with the chief calling me in for a one-on-one meeting where he slammed his door, tossed his glasses on his desk, started cussing at me, yelling at me, belittling me, and telling me if I had a problem with him to tell it to his effing face. Second, I have heard the chief speak on many occasions very negatively about city employees, sworn officers, and council members alike. And then, when other officers follow in his direction, he doesn't shut down those conversations. He allows them to continue. He nods, smirks, says little side, motions. Like, you guys are here drunk once when you picked up City Council Member Holstrom when her car was broken down. They were up there laughing about how she was drunk and you had to pick her up. I mean, just ridiculous things that I would hear inside the department. That doesn't sound like an internal HR department matter to me. Third, I've heard too many conversations about the progresses of an officer, the hiring and firing of currently working officers, both past and present. I've consoled 2 current members of the police force in different matters on how they're being treated by the chief of police. Fourth, many officers from the past that are no longer with the department have warned me about the chief's erratic behavior and how he targets and then papers their file in an attempt to fire them. So much that I've had 3 former officers at 3 different departments reach out to me to try to get me to leave this program, which I reluctantly but finally have made the decision to resign because they didn't want me to become a target. The recommendation from these former officers: don't say anything. Be quiet. Stay off his radar. Because once you become the target, you might as well pack your bags. Fifth, everything changed for me when my law firm that I work for hired Officer Heather Starry back in August for a matter that I won't discuss because of attorney-client privilege. From that moment forward, I was treated completely different in the department. Fifth, and finally, having my career threatened for not keeping quiet when all of the officers were asked to show up at city council in support of the chief for a video that was put on YouTube a mere week or 2 after he had me in his office screaming at me, I found was unethical, unprofessional, and was not leadership. What you saw in that video was a PG version of what happened to me. And I've talked to 3 or 4 past officers who are no longer with this department who claim that the same thing has happened to them. So my question, which you're not going to answer, is what are you doing to investigate that? With this being said, I have watched morale plummet up and down as officers become more focused on merely meeting the demands of the chief's behavior rather than fostering genuine relationships within the community. I have found this to be true when those officers come to me for advice, since I've been in the department longer than most of them, as the chief refers to them as baby cops. When officers feel unsupported and unheard, it does not just affect the very fabric of the community, but affects the fabric of the police department in the way it's run and the way that we serve the community. It compromises our effectiveness and undermines the trust that is essential for effective policing. We must remember that our department's greatest asset is its people. Each one of Osseo's officers brings unique skills and perspectives that are vital to that mission. However, with the current culture that discourages dialogue and collaboration, we risk losing the very essence of what makes us effective. And this is antithetical when the chief says salacious things about the chief of police of Maple Grove, when he says salacious things about the members of this council, when he says things about employees of the city, when he says things about sworn officers, CSOs, and reserves, along with members of this community. Is there no one he won't disparage? Is there no burden he won't bridge? I urge all of you to support one another for pushing for a more respectful environment of this city. I genuinely hope that those in positions of authority, those on this council, will take heed the concerns expressed by your citizens, city employees, and officers past and present. As I prepare to embark on the next chapter of my life, I do so with hope. Hope for the department, hope for the community, hope for a future where every officer and employee feels valued and empowered. While I may be leaving, my commitment to public service remains strong, and I look forward to applying the lessons I've learned here in new ways. Thank you.
Thank you for service.
Any other matters from the floor? Third time matters from the floor? All right, matters from the floor are now closed. Moving on. 7, special business, 7A, Metro Transit presentation. Victoria Dan, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Cindy Harper. I'm the manager of route planning for Metro Transit, and with me this evening is Victoria Dan. She's a senior transit planner responsible for planning transit service in the Northwest Metro, including in Osseo. And first of all, thank you for the time and the invitation to come and present about Network Now, which is a project that is currently in its public engagement period. I'm going to cover just the kind of the overall background information, and then Victoria will cover the part that you're probably more interested in, which is the actual impacts on Osseo. Next slide, please. Okay. So there's 4 reasons that we are doing this project. First of all, this has been a pivotal time in our history, the last 4.5 years or so. It's been a really key time in our history. We've seen a significant ridership decline. And that's not just limited to Metro Transit, but that's happening at transit agencies across the country as a result of the pandemic. This ridership decline has also been tied to a 30% decrease in the hours of service that we operate. Also, we're seeing that travel patterns have changed significantly. There are fewer downtown commuters. We've seen very significant change in that downtown commuter express market due to the impacts of hybrid telecommuting and some other factors that we can discuss in a second. And we have seen that our service that has been the most resilient, retained the most ridership during the past 4.5 years, has been service that operates all day and for a variety of trip purposes, not just geared towards getting one type of customer into downtown Minneapolis. Our workforce has also been a top priority. Like many other organizations, we have faced a workforce shortage in the last couple of years. We are now, I think, in a better place with that. But that was part of the reason we've had to reduce service. And we are, as an organization, looking to grow for a couple different reasons. We have a new regional sales tax that took effect in fall of 2023 to fund transit expansion. And we have 4 different transitway projects that are currently under construction right now, 3 of which are scheduled to open in 2025. And so there's a lot of growth and activity going on at Metro Transit. And so we wanted to make sure we had a plan to get us through these next 3 to 4 years as we are growing and rebounding. Next slide, please. So Network Now is a short-term vision with really 2 main goals. First is to resolve the status of bus routes that are currently suspended. We have over 60 routes that are suspended, most of which are commuter and express routes, most of which have been suspended since March or April of 2020 that we know we need to make a decision about. And many of those express routes are supported by park and ride facilities, and so we also need to make long-term decisions about the future of those facilities that have been currently sitting empty. On the other side, on the more entertaining side of the funner side of the equation here, it's also an opportunity for us to improve in service by adding new routes and also by redesigning existing bus routes, improve the frequency of service and the span of service on existing routes, as well as prepare for metro line investments, as well as expand our microtransit network. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, this is a vision. It's a framework for us meant to be short-term, just through 2027. The plan expands service in our network, proposes a 35% increase in service hours in order to grow ridership. It's also the opportunity for us to improve coverage and mobility, both by expanding traditional fixed route bus service as well as microtransit service. And at the same time, it's an opportunity for us to redesign our commuter and express services in order to meet the travel needs of the region that we're seeing today. Next slide, please. Next slide. The foundation for all of the work in Network Now is summarized in a report that came out last fall called Establishing the Foundation. It's available on our website. And it really summarizes the 3 pillars that form the foundation of this project. They include network performance, policy, including the Met Council's Transportation Policy Plan, and also engagement. We launched the project in early 2023 with significant engagement survey and community meetings and workshops and variety of other ways for folks to tell us about their values and priorities with transit, resulted in over 6,000 comments. Do want to bring attention to the chart that's on the bottom right of the slide here. This is one of the charts that's in our report and is an example of how we've seen the landscape change since the pandemic. So the x-axis across the bottom represents hour of the day. So this represents a 124-hour period of the day. And the y-axis is for hourly boardings. The gray lines represent ridership activity prior to the pandemic, so back in 2019. And as you can see, there's a pretty significant spike between roughly 6 and 9 a.m., and then again between 3 and 6 p.m., correlating with what we traditionally call rush hour. The black line is what we're seeing today, and a couple of changes. First of all, our ridership overall is still lower than it was prior to the pandemic. We're at about 60% of our total ridership from before the pandemic hit. But more, just as significantly, we're seeing, particularly in the AM rush hour, much less of a difference than there used to be. Now we're seeing more of a gentle ramp up throughout the day to then our busiest time in the afternoon, early evening periods. And so that's one of the big changes we've seen, is that there is not as much of a difference between ridership in the midday or in the off-peak versus in the rush hours. Next slide, please. So all of the data, the trends that we've observed, and the public feedback that we received that were summarized in that establishing the foundation report resulted in these 5 guiding principles that we used to draft our concept plan. Includes adapting service to changes that we've seen, preparing for new metro lines, maintaining the reliability of our service, building on success to grow ridership, while at the same time providing access to opportunities and services with the focus on advancing equity. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. So the results of the concept plans include the items that are in bold here tie back to our guiding principles that I just reviewed. So growing ridership. There are more than 60 routes that we are proposing to improve span or frequency, and those are shown on the map in blue, including 15 routes where we'll have service that runs every 15 minutes or better, and also improving, restoring service on the blue and the green lines, the 2 light rail lines that we have, back to every 10 minutes, which is where they were prior to the pandemic. Also, another goal is to improve service coverage. That includes 8 new microtransit zones. Those are the green circles or blobs that you see kind of spread around the map. There'll be more about that in just a second. As well as we have more than 20 routes that either are new routes or they are existing routes that are being extended or changed to serve areas of new coverage. And those are the orange lines on the map. All of this results in a 25% increase in the number of jobs that are accessible within a 45-minute ride on transit for the average resident in the region. Next slide, please. Another one of those guiding principles was adapting service to travel patterns. So one of the big changes in Network Now is how we are approaching the commuter express market. As a result, as you recall from the chart a couple of slides ago, of course, we're seeing much less of an AM rush hour than we used to. We are seeing lower ridership demand on express service overall and a significant decline in park and ride usage. Back in 2019, we had about 18,000 cars a day that were parking at one of the various park and rides around the region. We just did another count earlier this month, and it's about 4,500 now. So you can just see the significant change in that market. Due to a variety of purposes, certainly hybrid telecommuting, working from home at least some days of the week for those that have the ability to do so, significant impact. We are seeing a significant change, difference in ridership on a Monday versus a Tuesday versus a Wednesday as well. And we schedule weekday versus Saturday, Sunday, but we don't do it by individual days. So it's a pretty inefficient way to run service. We're also seeing that even when people do go into the office, they're often not necessarily staying for a full day. So you're seeing more flexibility, maybe working for a couple, maybe leaving the office a little bit early, in the afternoon to be there when the kids get home, get off the school bus, and then working for a couple hours in the evening as kids are doing homework or maybe after they've gone to bed. So we're seeing those impacts as well. So as a result, we are proposing to shift our strategy to how we serve this market to something called the Key Express Network, which are the purple lines on the map here. This is a way of us to consolidate service in order to free up resources to reinvest elsewhere to meet today's travel patterns. The idea with the Key Express Network is that there is a key park and ride in each of the major highway corridors that leads into downtown Minneapolis. There's a key park and ride and then a Key Express Network route. And those are listed here, including the Route 768, which is the Noble Avenue Park and Ride, Noble and 610, just across the border in Brooklyn Park. And the idea is that we are, in some cases, asking park and riders to maybe drive a little bit further to us, but then if they do, we'll make it worth their while in terms of having service every 15 minutes or better during the rush hour, as well as having midday service. So these Key Express routes, when you pair them with our metro network, so that's the green and the orange and the blue and the other colored lines you see on the map, they combine together to provide all-day, high-frequency, limited-stop service anchored at park and rides. The light blue lines on the map are other commuter express routes that are operating today and will continue to do so, but they have just a handful of trips available. So really concentrating on those Key Express Network routes.
May I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Isn't Brooklyn Park have a proposed redevelopment of the park and ride in Noble?
Mayor and council members, they are proposing to redevelop the old park and ride. We used to have a approximately 500 space surface lot that was just east of Noble, shared right next to the gas station.
Okay.
And then probably going at close to 10 years now, probably, we partnered and built a parking ramp a couple of blocks further to the west. Okay. Next slide, please. So this map shows just the change in our commuter-oriented service access. You can see all of the dark heavy blue lines represent either those Key Express Network routes or light rail or bus rapid transit services. The red lines are services that are proposed to be discontinued, all of which are currently suspended today. You'll notice that there's a lot of red lines, but those lines are pretty thin. The width of the line on the map is related to how much service there is on that route. So it's a lot of route numbers, but each of those routes usually only has a handful of trips available. Next slide, please. And this map shows just the change overall in network coverage. As you can see, pretty comprehensive plan to get that 35% increase in service all around the region. The bright green lines are metro lines, so that's light rail and bus rapid transit. Blue is local routes. Pink is commuter express routes. The gray routes are places that had service back in 2019, but we are not planning to restore service according to the proposal. And next slide, please. This is my last slide before I'll hand it over to Victoria. In our report, in our concept plan, which is out on our project website, there's several different charts and graphs that show really, analyze the results of if we were to implement the concept plan, what we would expect to see as outcomes. This is just one of those. This in particular talks about the number of people in the region that have access to high-frequency service. So by access, we mean it's within a 5-minute walk or roll, and high frequency, of course, means every 15 minutes or better. The chart at the top third refers to all of the Metro Transit service area. The middle is particularly looking at communities of color, and the bottom third is looking at low-income communities. And in all cases, the red bar is the concept plan. The middle bar is what we currently have on the street, and then the bottom is what we had back in 2019, pre-pandemic. And in all cases, the number of people who will have high-frequency service has grown significantly from what we have today or what we had prior to the pandemic. So at this point, I'll let Victoria talk about the service changes in Osseo.
Thank you.
Thank you again for having us here this evening. Next slide, please. Or I guess I could try the clicker.
Try it, see if it works. Like, hey, I can go back, I think. I hope. Can you go back? There you go.
There you go.
So first off, a little bit of apologies. The title of this slide indicates Brooklyn Park, but it should say both Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center. So today, the nearest service on Metro Transit routes are accessible in nearby communities at Brooklyn Park at Noble and 610 Park and Ride, as well as in Brooklyn Center at the 65th Avenue and Brooklyn Boulevard Park and Ride. They're approximately 3 to 4 miles away each from roughly the center of Osseo. At Noble and 610, as Cindy mentioned, riders can access Route 768, which is one of the routes that will be part of our Key Express network. Alternatively, riders who want to head down to 94 can access Route 760 at 65th and Brooklyn Boulevard. That is a service that we are proposing to improve up to 30 minutes in the peak. So it's not a Key Express network, but it is an alternative for some riders who may be more oriented towards I-94. So what's most relevant and exciting to the city of Osseo is the proposed concept Route 725. This is a new crosstown service connecting the communities of Osseo, Brooklyn Park, a little bit of Coon Rapids over to Blaine at Northtown Transit Center and the Northtown Mall. It also, with this draft alignment, would serve additional destinations along the route, including Hennepin Technical College and North Hennepin Community College as well as shopping destinations such as the Starlight Shopping Center, which is also a transit center as well, and as I mentioned, Northtown Mall and some of the surrounding uses in the greater kind of Northtown area. Oh, I almost forgot to mention the Walmart Supercenter as well. That'll be another destination along this route. So the 725, because it makes those connections at two different transit centers, Starlight and Northtown, it opens up a lot of local and express route connections. At Starlight, which is the closest transit center to Osseo residents, those would be connections to Route 705, 721, more like at Hennepin Technical College, and the 723 and the 724 are all routes that serve that area. The 723 and the 724 and the 721 all provide connection into Brooklyn Center at the Brooklyn Center Transit Center, and the 705 travels south through communities such as New Hope, Crystal, Golden Valley, down to the edge of St. Louis Park at the Louisiana Transit Center. On the other side of the route, which we're estimating will take about a 40-minute transit ride to get over to Northtown, riders will have access to a number of other services, including Route 10, which is an existing core local route, high frequency, outside of the scope of Network Now, that is being improved post-2027 as a bus rapid transit line. But today, the Route 10 already serves 15-minute or better service most times of day. It would also provide connections to Route 25, another core local route that we are in this plan improving service on as well. And it will also provide connections to Route 805, which travels north into Coon Rapids and Anoka. So there are lots of different destinations and communities that are accessible along all these routes that riders can connect into. I mentioned express routes. At Starlight, there is one express route that riders can access there, the Route 764, which trips into downtown Minneapolis. As well as at Northtown, there's the 824, the 852, and the 860. The 860 is a route that we will be reinstating as part of Network Now. It is currently suspended, but it provides commuter express service to downtown St. Paul, which is a really unique corridor for us and riders. 725 riders may be looking forward to making that connection in the future. Cindy mentioned Metro Transit Micro, and I want to talk a little bit more about on-demand or demand response services in general, because some of those already exist in communities, including Osseo today. They include Transit Link and Metro Mobility. Transit Link is an advanced reservation general public dial-a-ride service, and Metro Mobility is ADA paratransit available to ADA qualifying riders in the community. One program that we're hoping to pilot in Network Now through the end of 2027, or launching through the end of 2027, is a new microtransit zone in Brooklyn Park. So this pilot program is called Metro Micro. We recently rebranded. And this is a on-demand service where riders use an app or call in and request a ride that starts and ends within the zone, and they will be offered a ride if a vehicle is available within the next 30 minutes. So it's more on demand than many of the services that riders may already be used to with Transit Link and Metro Mobility. The zones tend to be rather small because we need to make sure that we can make those target pickup times and make sure that our rides are short enough to accommodate the demand on a system. The other thing that I will note, a couple of other things, is that Metro Micro costs the same as an express route. So there is a peak fare and an off-peak fare, but the transfers, if you're going to, say, a local route, connecting to a local route, is free. The other item is that rides may be shared. So if there are different parties of people or different riders, maybe in a similar area or going in a similar direction, riders may be pooled onto the same minibus, and they might be shuttled in an indirect way to serve multiple rides on the same vehicle. So with Metro Micro, you may have heard of the North Minneapolis pilot that we launched in 2022, and this past month we made it into a permanent service. And so we're switching gears a little bit with the expansion of Metro Micro. We'll be focusing more on suburban communities, communities that are for, maybe varying reasons, a little more difficult to serve with a traditional fixed route service. And we're also really focusing on Metro microzones as being kind of gateways to the greater transit fixed route network. So that means connections to stations, connections to transit centers. Some of them may be already existing facilities, and some might be planned future facilities. So in the map here that removes all of the fixed route lines, you can see where those zones are. So the nearest zone to Osseo would be a zone focused on Starlight Transit Center, which is not far away. And certainly as we think about implementation of these new pilot zones, we want to be working with communities to identify, where are the destinations that people want to go, how do people want to connect, and certainly that might not necessarily mean that people in Brooklyn Park only want to travel within Brooklyn Park. There might be other destinations that folks are interested in. And we're also aware that Maple Grove Transit also has their own on-demand service as well, Maple Grove My Ride, and they have a certain set of rules that they use for requesting and reserving reservations on their system too. So just keep that in mind. Metro Micro is a little bit different in terms of our existing rules about how and where riders can go, but yeah, that's something to be aware of. So we've got a schedule of, and this slide is a little bit out of date, but by the end of year, early next year, we'll be launching 2 new zones with Metro Micro in the Roseville area connecting to the A line, and in the Woodbury area connecting to the Gold line. And throughout the next about 3 years through 2027. We'll be opening about 2 projects a year in each of the listed communities. I mentioned some factors that we had in mind when we were selecting locations for future metro microzones. Those include things like demographic information, land use information, how many rental units are in a community, how many households have access to a vehicle or maybe don't have access to a vehicle. And as we launch each of these new pilot zones, we'll be looking closely at the various performance metrics of these zones to assess, as a pilot, how can we make tweaks, how can we adjust, and how do we understand whether and to what degree this pilot is working for riders. So the Network Now draft plan, which is live online and public comments, is open until November 15th. If you go online, you'll find the what we're calling the appendix, or Appendix C, and that includes individual route pages where folks can learn about each route and the changes that are proposed. So up here is Route 725 specifically, which again is the most relevant route for Osseo, including what the planned schedule is. Hourly, every day is what we're aiming for with implementation. See also the alignment in the map below, and some general route information about the nature of the service and destinations along it. And part of this effort to be reaching out to stakeholders and sharing information is also to make sure that we're hearing some of the questions and interests, and if there are places in communities that are of particular interest to serve. Those are things that we can be considering as we wrap up the public comment period and look into making revisions to the draft plan, which we'll be doing in earnest over this winter, with the framework being approved in early 2025.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
do you do all of your own data points, or do you use other entities to get some of the data that, like the Census Bureau, for instance, or Federal Reserve, or some of those other data collectors that?
Thank you, Councilmember. That's a great question. We do use a variety of data sources. Certainly the census is one, the American Community Survey, the census from 2020. We also, look to other data, collection methods as well. We have our own onboard survey. We completed an onboard survey on our entire fixed route system in 2022. And that's part of the council's kind of broader travel behavior inventory that's accomplished every, I want to say 5 years, but we might be doing it more frequently. Yeah. And certainly we also have data that we produce from our bus system every day, like ridership numbers. We know how many folks are boarding or lighting at specific stops on our system, and we have that information historically going back a number of years as well. I think that covers kind of many of our primary data sources.
Thank you. I was just interested if there were other partners in that.
Council questions?
Sure. You mentioned you took some surveys. Did you take them on every day of the week or just one day of the week on the park and rides?
Yes, so the Park and Ride survey is an annual survey where we being Metro Transit staff, go out for, it's typically either a Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Thursday, and we count the number of vehicles at that Park and Ride between rush hours. So most Park and Rides, they're, today especially, only being served by kind of rush hour trips. So going out in the middle of the day gives us a good idea of who's there for for park and riding. So it is a one-day observation. Of course, they might occur over a number of different days, each park and ride. We do try and do rain checks so that, if the one day the weather is not great, that certainly can influence whether someone goes into the office or not, especially these days with teleworking. So this past year, the park and ride survey was focused on the last couple of weeks of September at the very beginning of October.
So each park and ride you did every day or just
One day,
one day?
a one-day
So
observation.
really, I'm going to be honest, that is not catching the entire week because there are a lot of places that you have to come into work 3 days a week and you might be missing a majority of the people, which is a possibility. I know my kids, when they go into work, it's 3 days and they can pick the 3 days, and most of them do Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and they work from home Monday and Friday. So if you did a survey on Mondays, you could be missing out a lot of people. Or if you did it on Wednesday, there might not, I believe the whole 5 days should have been surveyed.
Mayor and council members, to clarify, we did the checks on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Thursday. What we see in our express ridership is that Mondays and Fridays in particular are very, very low compared to the rest of the week. So we purposely did not do a Monday or a Friday.
Perfect. So you did Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
Yeah, we
Okay.
visited each site around the region once, but it was a Tuesday, a Wednesday, or a Thursday.
Okay. It would have been nice to see if to do the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at each site, just to get a count. Just
Yeah.
could be surprising. I used to use Metro Transit a lot when I went to downtown. We used to have a park and ride near here, but it's Highway 169 took it out. So, and I know when I go down to a Twins game or T-Wolves or a Lynx game, I drive and it costs me $20. And at least $20, sometimes more. And it'd be really nice if I could hook a ride and pay a couple of bucks, sit back, relax. And have you seen the ridership going up? Since the pandemic, I don't believe we saw too much of a graph where you would show the ridership going up, or was there a graph in there that I might have missed?
There wasn't one in the presentation. There is one in our report that's online, and we can certainly follow up with Shane in terms of providing that exact information. But we have seen, our ridership dropped significantly, of course, in between 2019 and 2020, as
Correct.
to be expected. And then we have been rebounding since then. We are currently this year compared to last year up approximately 10%. Year 2023 compared to 2022, we were up, I think, 16 or 17%. And so we are slowly rebounding, but that's not an even rebound. We're seeing that primarily on our all-day services. But yeah, we have a lot of different graphs and charts that show that.
Okay.
And we can certainly
Well, I
pass
know
that along.
I saw in the news tonight before I got here that there are some companies that are demanding that their employees start showing up 5 days a week now instead of 3. And employees are balking at it. Of course, like you stated, get the kids off the bus, take them daycare, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, yeah. It's very interesting to see how the market responds to that, because I think a lot of companies, or some companies tried that a couple of years ago and people said, I'll just find another job. And now the job market has changed a little bit as well. So, yeah, we're definitely, in terms of our work with Network Now, we wanted to wait until we had enough information to be able to make decisions, which is part of the reason why those routes have been suspended for as long as they have. Starting to see some of the dust settle, not completely. But I think having a fair amount of confidence that the days of everybody working in the office 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, are probably in our rearview mirror.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for the information.
Thank you, and just a
Thank you.
reminder, the public comment period closes on November 15th.
All right, thank you. And where can people, if you want to give that again, where they can give comment?
Yes, so we have one meeting tomorrow, a community meeting tomorrow night, and we also have, that one is in Minneapolis. We also have one next week on the 7th. That is a virtual meeting for folks to be able to attend. In addition, on our website, there is an online comment card that you can fill out to give your feedback, or we also have there's an email address, customer relations. We are out riding buses and trains talking to customers, as well as doing pop-up events at some of our transit centers and other community destinations around the region, trying to interact with our customers and with the general public. So far, as of late last week, we'd received about 800 comments back through the online comment forms. So one of the things we'll be focusing on for the next month or so, next 3 weeks, is really making sure, taking a look at where those comments are coming from, and if we need to, pay particular attention to a certain area of the region or a certain, making sure that we're hearing from even those stakeholders who don't necessarily participate in a traditional, outreach process, making sure that we're getting them involved as well, since those are the folks that tend to disproportionately rely on transit. So wanting to make sure that all of the voices are heard. Great, thank you.
All right, 7B, approve special event permit application for Fall
Mayor.
Small Business Saturday.
Yep. Mayor and council, we have a special event permit for Small Business Saturday. And this is something that has gone on for at least 2-3 years now. This will be Saturday, November 30th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. They asked for some setup between 9 and 10, so to close some streets down, or the 200 block of Central Avenue from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. There was one asked, just some helps and barricades to get it set up, which we've done in the past and never had a problem. This has gone around to all the department heads, and nobody has an issue with it, and so I'm leaving it up to you.
Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Small Business Saturday special event.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Councilmember Hallstrom to approve the Small Business Saturday event, seconded by Councilmember Hall. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, 10C, accept donations.
Mayor and council, whereas the Osseo City Council is generally authorized to accept contributions of real and personal property pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 465.03, and whereas the council agrees that said donation would be benefit to the citizens of Osseo, and whereas the following has proposed this contribution to the city of Osseo and the donation be used for the specific purpose as indicated below. American Legion, $500 to Mini Dazzle. Real Life Cooperative, $250 to the fire department. Osseo Fire Relief Association, $6,870 to the fire department for tools. And the Osseo Fire Relief Association of $800 to the fire department for uniforms.
Questions? If not, we look for a motion.
So moved.
Second by the motion by Councilmember Hall, seconded by Councilmember Cook. Any further discussion? Not Attorney Teachin, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This is resolution number 63. Councilmember Cook?
Aye.
Councilmember Hall?
Aye.
Councilmember Holstrom?
Aye.
Councilmember Schultz?
Aye.
Mayor Poppy?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. All right, number 8, public hearings. No public hearings this evening. Number 9, no old business in front of us. Number 10, new business, 10A, 2025 Alley Project. Welcome.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Included in the packet was a link to the feasibility report. So this evening, I just wanted to go through that in a little bit more detail with Council, answer any questions that Council may have, and if the Council so desires, look to call the public hearing for November 25th. So there are 9 alleys proposed for the 2025 project. These are the last 9 bituminous alleys in the city. They're proposed to be reconstructed in concrete. I won't go in detail as listing each one by name. I feel like the map does a good job showing the council and those in the audience where the project is located.
Allison, did you have these in, thank you.
Oh. And certainly, if a paper copy is desired by council, we can certainly provide more paper copies if that's something folks want.
Yeah, I'll take Schultz's.
It's much nicer than reading on screen all weekend.
I like my paper
Just wanna
copies
peek at it.
too, as well, Councilmember Holstrom. So one of the things that I wanted to go through in a little bit of detail with the council this evening is drainage. From the 2022 project, we know that with Osseo being very flat, we saw we wanted to see if there were opportunities to improve drainage with this project. So I directed the team to go and do a heat map, if you will, of the existing grades of these alleys. And that's included in the appendix. I thought that was a nice graphic to show what are we seeing out there for drainage. So typically with concrete, you want to see a 0.5% grade to convey drainage. So where we're seeing that, we had that in, I believe that's the yellow. And then anything about less than 0.2% we're showing in red. So as I go through these slides, please keep that in mind that we are seeing some existing conditions that are very flat. And in addition to the alley, the team also took a look at the driveways adjacent to that, because if you look at a reconstruction scenario as an opportunity to change those grades in the alley, bring up the grade in the middle of the alley so you get that 0.5%, what do we do to those driveways? So we are seeing some flat driveways out there as well. We have a couple areas that are back pitched, meaning that they drain from the alley towards the garage, in the one instance, and towards the building over on Central Ave. So there are a lot of competing challenges with this project. We're certainly, if the council authorizes final design, the team would certainly look at opportunities to improve drainage, but there's certainly some challenge associated with that. So I'll just quickly go through some of these so that those in the, if the council has any questions with that. But we are seeing, so these alleys with not a lot of pitch to them. And this one in particular has a driveway that has back pitch on it. That's the one that's the black box on the right-hand side of the screen towards the bottom. This one's looking a little bit better. It's a little flat there in the middle of the alley, and then we've got some better pitch in the alley further on. Again, another flat alley through here with some flat driveways adjacent to it that would pose some challenges with final design. Another flat alley, however, this one has a little bit more wiggle room, if you will, with those adjacent driveways being at a higher pitch. So there might be some opportunities in this area. This area is a little bit of a mixed bag. This one's looking fairly good. And then we're over in the commercial area. As you can see, the parking lots in general have good drainage. The alley has moderate drainage with one area that's quite flat. And then the last alley here that we're looking at in the project, the last alley in the commercial area, again, another mixed bag with some flat areas and some areas that have some moderate grade. For proposed improvements, again, we're looking to remove and replace the bituminous within the alleys, replace it with concrete. These are the last 9 alleys. Sanitary sewer exists in some of the alleys. We're looking to do some casting adjustments. That means taking the iron on it and raising it or lowering it to meet the grade of the alley as it's reconstructed if needed. And then also chimney seals, and those are seals to prevent inflow and infiltration into the sanitary sewer system. That's a standard. There's also, we included in the report, there's an option. These areas were televised, I believe it was 2019. So if the council would like to get those retelevised, we could certainly do that. We reached out to a vendor, and they indicated it would be about $1,600 to do so. if there are some if there are some issues that pop up with that retelevising, what we've seen in Osseo in the past isn't a project where you go and dig down and dig up those sanitary sewers. Osseo is typically lined sewers that have issues. We wouldn't anticipate to see any major issues, but again, if the council would like to see that retelevised, we could certainly go ahead and do that. We do have some potential storm sewer extensions. I'll go through that in a little bit more detail. I'll bring up those maps again, along with some proposed storm sewer alignments that the council could look at for consideration. It's not a decision that, or a direction that council would have to make this evening, but it's certainly a good opportunity to ask some questions, broach the subject, and then when time comes, should the council want to direct to order the preparation of final plans and specifications at that time, that's when we would be looking for direction on storm sewer extension. And then this would also be an opportunity to look at private utility repairs and coordinating that work. The alley section would be a 12-foot alley, typically in a 16-foot wide right-of-way. And again, we'd be removing the existing bituminous pavement, replacing it with concrete. So the storm sewer extension. So what I did is I took that heat map that we just went through for each alley, and then on the side here showed where the proposed storm sewer extension, so you kind of hopefully can get the whole picture. You see where the alley is, if it's flat, and then see where that storm sewer would go. So in this instance, we see the storm sewer extension would require cutting into the street to the north of the alley. But we also see an alley that has, especially for Osseo, some pretty good drainage on it, some good pitch on it. On the next one, it's quite flat. But then the area where we would be, and this one's a little easier. My eyes are getting bad. But the challenge with this one is if you look where the storm sewer extension could come from, it's not serving the alley area that's flat. It's serving the section of the alley that has better pitch on it. So again, some challenges, but we can certainly look at what options are for changing the grade of that alley in final design, should the council direct to do so. Again, with this alley, we're seeing some pretty good pitch on the existing alley, particularly with respect to where the storm sewer extension is available on the south end of the alley. And then this one would be a nice candidate for some storm sewer extension, given how flat the alley is. A little bit of storm sewer at the south end there could pick up and hopefully help a little bit of the drainage. So, these opportunities, again, we want to take a look at making the situation better. Are we going to make it drain really well? That's the goal, but it remains to be seen if that's attainable. That would be a final design determination. Again, here we see an alley that doesn't have a lot of grade. In this one, there's an option to connect to the storm sewer on both ends of the alley. So that might be a good option to take a look at. And then here again, the storm sewer would be available on the south end of the alley. That's where we're seeing some flat grades. That might be another area to take a look at connecting the storm sewer. This one, where we have these alleys that have some good grade to them, that would be a good discussion point as to whether or not when we look at the cost to extend storm sewer, is that a good option to pursue given the cost to do that. We had the estimated cost to extend storm sewer throughout the project to be approximately, at this time, $375,000, and that's for all of them. So they weren't broken out by alley, but we can certainly, if the council directs us to do so, take a look at what those costs would be per alley so that you could get a a better idea of the cost for each alley and kind of take a look at those cost benefits through final design.
There's 9, so roughly 40,000 a piece, just as a
So for good, yeah, I think
as an
that
average.
I think that would be a good a good estimate at this point, because each one of them requires cutting into the street to a varying degree. And then here we're in the commercial alleys. So we start looking at some extension opportunity here on the north side. But again, that's in an area where we're seeing a little bit better pitch on the existing alley. And then finally here with this last one, to get that storm sewer on the south end, it'd be nice to be able to hit that red zone, if you will, on the right side where we're seeing some flatter grades through there. But it's a challenge. Our hands are a little bit tied with respect to how deep that storm sewer is and how far we can get through there. One of the other items mentioned in the feasibility report, council a couple of years ago directed staff to take a look at what it would cost to convert the overhead lines in the commercial alleys to underground. So that work was, we reached out to Xcel Energy. They gave, we'll call it a ballpark, maybe a couple blocks away at $300,000. They're saying, they also indicated that's probably on the low end. And given that cost, we didn't pursue it. We didn't include that in the feasibility estimated assessments. Waiting council direction on what you'd like to do with that, if you would like us to get some more information. I know at one point there were some supply chain issues with getting some of the transformers and what have you. I'm not an electrician, so I think Councilmember Hall can probably speak a lot better to this than I can, but I know that there used to be supply chain issues associated with electric conversion. But again, when we looked at that additional cost to the property owners to convert their services, that's in addition to that 300,000 plus. So we're looking at some pretty significant price tags associated between the alley improvements, converting the overhead electric to underground, and then also converting the services. And then Xcel Energy also indicated that there would likely be loss of parking stalls in order to put the equipment down that's necessary to make those conversions.
That can get to be real expensive for a business owner to switch over from overhead to underground. Extremely expensive.
And looking at opportunities for funding for these things, it's tough. I mean, we've seen. I reached out. I didn't get anywhere at the time. This was a few months ago. I didn't find anything. We can certainly keep looking for those opportunities if that's something the council would like to look at. I'm not sure what kind of splits we would get, but like I mentioned, it's a hefty price tag. But again, if that's something the council wants us to get some more information, we can certainly go ahead and do that. Along with the project, if we proceed through construction, we would continue with some public engagement. We had we started doing public engagement through a group within our company that monitors both a hotline and an email address. We found that to be really effective. They tend to explain, I mean, I don't understand. I explained it in engineeringese, and people don't like that, and so they explain it in great ways. They get good information out. They're a lot faster to respond than I would be. So we would look to continue doing that. I've also included some snips of what we used this year. We had the construction kickoff postcard that included the information for both the phone and the email hotline. We've included that information on the neighborhood open house that we're scheduling. We also use door hangers for those affected by concrete curb pours and driveway access issues to communicate that. And then we also had the caring for your new sod information that went out when the sod was placed. So there, for the most part, most of the alleys are within right-of-way. We have identified some properties that would require easement through there. There's certainly a prescriptive right, so to speak, for these alleys, but these projects are a nice opportunity to, even though the city's maintained that alley for decades, it's a nice opportunity to go ahead and get that easement signed and recorded against the property. So we've started that process. That process was initiated per council direction back in 2022. So we've started that process already. We would look to be obtaining those easements at no cost, just given the impediments that are already there to the property. The alley already exists, so we've been working through that. Additionally, through final design, if there are areas where a right of entry would be necessary, and that means where we anticipate work would extend beyond that right of way, we would certainly identify that through the final design process and then reach out to those property owners and get the necessary signatures in order to do that work and that encroachment. So proposed funding for the project, we are looking at both included in the feasibility report, we had the alley surface costs, the sanitary sewer improvements, the castings and the inflow and infiltration barriers, and then the optional storm sewer option. And we broke that down into city costs and the proposed assessment amounts. So the assessment amounts are based off the city assessment policy of 80% of those surface costs. So we've included that breakdown here. One thing I did want to mention is for the alley surface cost at $165,489. As the council may recall, the 2022 bond, there's some money remaining within that. The last calculation we went through was just north of $403,381.07. And that is based on the final cost of the 2022 sewer lining project, the estimated final cost for the 2022 alley project, and the estimated cost for this year's street improvement project. So only one of those projects is finalized out. So I feel we're conservative in that number. I think when we final out the 2022 alley project and the 2024 street project, we'll probably be over that 403,000, but I wanted to keep that number there just to be conservative until we close out those projects.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Thank you. I did request that. I was looking for that, and I do appreciate that. And I think that if we're going to do alleys in concrete, we have to do all the other things that we can at the time. It's like you don't build something for 50 years and then just do part of it. I think the sanitary sewer and the storm sewer are going to be important things to take care of.
So Mayor Poppy, Councilmember Holstrom, we can certainly, look for that direction based on, going into final design, as I mentioned, particularly with the sanitary sewer. We would anticipate that anything that would pop up in that televising, if anything, would be a sewer lining project, which can be done independent of this project. We'll certainly cross that bridge when we get there.
Here, Bobby.
Yep.
I'm in agreement that if we're going to do this with cement, concrete, that we need to do the storm drain at the same time, not put it off and 10, 15 years from now, oh, let's tear this up again. Get it done one shot.
And I think if we had gone into our last alley project more mindful of these things, we might have had a little bit easier time with some of the on there.
And did you say that you're only putting, instead of the 400,000, you would put in your numbers 165,000? Is that what I heard, or did I miss something along the line?
Councilmember Hall. I'll go back to the slide.
Yeah.
So, so the 165,000 is we'll say 165.5 just to round up. The
Yeah.
estimated city cost for the alley surface. So, should the council, based on past discussions from the street improvement project, we were looking at the leftover funds from that 2022 bond, which is just over 400,000, and utilizing some of that money to pay the city cost for this alley project.
Right. And I'm in agreement, we should use that $400,000 up, because that's what the project was for streets and alleys, and use that 400,000 up.
And I've communicated these numbers with Gary Groen, just so that he's aware of, the last discussion on the remaining funds from the 2022 bond, and then what we're estimating for city surface improvement costs with this project, just so he's the numbers guy. I need to make sure the finance director has all the pertinent numbers, So as I mentioned, we are looking at a 429 assessment project with this project as proposed per state statute 429 and the city's assessment policy assessing 80% of the alley surface improvements. And then the city would pick up the remaining 20% of the alley surface improvements, and then 100% of any public utility improvements. So again, I thought that a map with the estimated assessments that are included in the feasibility report, a lot easier to see. We are seeing some assessments go up over, estimated over 10,000, and those top two, the two alleys on the top of the map there, a little bit of an anomaly within the city of Osseo. I just did a quick look at the aerial photo. Those two alleys only have 6 properties next to them. And if I was looking at, if I caught all the alleys in Osseo, most of them have 8 properties or more. So we're seeing, just those 2 less properties really can drive up some of those estimated assessment amounts. So that's why we're seeing some higher numbers on those 2 alleys. And then on the south end, off of Broadway, there is, I know with one of those alleys, there's some retaining wall. There's retaining wall work that would be necessary with that one. So we're seeing that project cost go up a little bit. So the residential alleys are proposed to be assessed per unit, which has been done in the past. So each property on that alley would pay the same amount. And then with the commercial area, we're looking at a front footage cost. So the properties with whose properties are, who they have more length along the property, against the alley, would pay a higher assessment than those with a narrower property. And then we're looking at $77 and $79 per front foot on those 2. So the next steps, so here we are this evening with the presentation of the feasibility report, with a request to call the public hearing. If the council calls the public hearing this evening, we would hold that on November 25th. Due to the publication requirements, that's the earliest we could have that public hearing. And then if we get authorization after that public hearing to proceed with final design, we would do the final design through January, get bidding in early 2025 to open up bids in February, and then hold the assessment hearing and award the contract in the spring, March timeframe, and then have construction May through October of next year. We are looking to have a neighborhood open house on November 7th. I know typically in the past the council's had that open houses occurred before the the feasibility report, but just with the timing, we didn't have an opportunity to do that. So what we'll do is we'll hold that open house and then communicate any feedback, whether it's verbal or through the comment cards, that the council would have that at the public hearing. So you're hearing all the comments. They're just not included in the feasibility report, but they would be included in that packet item for the public hearing. So with that, our recommendation this evening is we request council to receive the feasibility report and call the public hearing. And I would be happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Council questions?
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple. So I'm happy to see that as we're looking at this, that we're going to be addressing with potential storm sewer extensions into the alleys, because Osseo is pretty flat. There's, I mean, we can't dig down and do that without doing, because you can't really, specifically on the residential component, you can't lift the alleys, because then you're going to create a back drainage problem. You know, we also then, if we do the storm sewer extensions, it does give us some additional water holding capacity underground so that it can dissipate rather than getting out on the streets. So I get that specifically to the bituminous alley, so that makes sense to me. The one question that I had is that in the beginning part of your dialogue, you mentioned that all the alleys, if I misunderstood, please correct me, that are addressing this are all bituminous alleys.
Except in the commercial.
Except in the commercial.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you
So
for
that's
that.
that's part I missed. And
I
so
misspoke.
Yep.
Thank
So
you.
looking in the commercial zones, those are already concrete alleys, and so to redo those alleys, the concrete alleys are actually in pretty good physical shape at this point. In the specifically in the ones south of, oh goodness, 4th Street Northwest down to 2nd Street Northwest. Those alleys are in pretty good shape. So it's, when I look at that, I do have a little bit of consternation regarding the amount of the project in pretty functional alleys. Do we specifically in that, so on your, when you have up right now on the far left, are we looking at those alleys simply because of drainage concerns currently? Is that because the alleys themselves are in good shape?
Thank you for the question and for the clarification on the existing surface. So my understanding was we were looking at these were the last 9 alleys in the city that haven't been recently reconstructed. And as far as the condition of them, I agree that I just drove them this evening. I think one has some more surface issues than the other one does.
I think the one further to the south has more than the one to the north, but.
That sounds right.
Out of this project, I apologize. My family schedule and stuff didn't allow me to drive all these alleys in advance of this meeting, and so I drove the commercial ones because it was literally on my way here. And so, looking at that, I mean, if we have a drain, because it looks like specifically on those alleys in the commercial area, most of it dumps to the alley, but then the question is the alley moving the water fast enough? And so that's a tough one. I do know that on the residential side, historically, our alleys have been in some pretty rough shape. And I think back to some comments here this evening when we looked at the 2022 project, we ran into a lot of grading issues. You know, in some cases, we were actually diverting water into the properties, and that's just something we can't do. So I don't know from a structural perspective if, when we're redoing some of those alleys, if we do use the storm sewer extension, we can regrade them to the new storm sewer catch basins as part of this project. But we can only do so much because, to your point, we still have to get it out to the street. But depending upon, that's where, you know, I'm going to want to sit with you additionally and get some more technical information regarding what size pipes we're going to put underground, how all that works from a storage capacity. Because I do know, and much of the council probably knows, we've talked pretty superficially in the past about some of our storm sewer capacity issues across the city being problematic. But I just really, You know, I'm okay with the feasibility because moving the feasibility just allows us to get more detail, moving that ahead. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to include all these things as we've stripped pieces of these projects out in the past. So I just want to get some more information. I don't want to do it here this evening, definitely, you know, my questions, and you can feed back to everybody else. But, you know, if we're doing the bituminous alleys that need to be done, we definitely have to address the drainage part of it. And historically, we haven't really looked at adding additional storm capacity in those. We just kind of just said, you know, Osseo is flat, and that's just the way that it's going to be. But when we can add additional grade underground, maybe we're not going to be able to get to the percentages that we want because of the tie-ins to the other ones. But improvement is still improvement. So that's pretty much what I have to say about this at this time. If what I said makes any sense, I hope it did.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think when we did the alley behind Dean's and all that, that was a total reconstruct, and we just patched and repaired that one.
Yes.
Part of it.
Part
Yeah,
of
it
it,
was
yeah,
a
because
portion.
it's
Yeah, it
still in
wasn't a
Good-
total
yeah, it was still in
reconstruct. We
good
did
condition.
But what we did not do is address any
Storm sewer.
storm. And I think, you know, when we look at this, it's important for the public to see when we're talking about the city costs, for example, on the storm extensions, that's just once the alley is removed, and for us to get underneath there and get that part in, still the people are going to be paying the assessment for replacing the services in the bituminous. I'm just going to yield to the fact that I believe that that's probably what we need to do for sure, because that's what we've done, moving that. The 80%, you know, it used to be 100% that the residents have to pay, and then we moved that back to 80%, picking up the additional 20% on the city side of things, just to kind of help out. But some of those assessments are proposed to be pretty steep. And so, but again, I want to take the time personally just to drive some of these alleys and just see where we're at, see if it makes sense to do it now, do it later. I'm just not exactly sure at this point in time where I'm at with the whole project.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
You know, we've looked at it different ways too, as far as my time on council. But I'm wondering if we could look at it differently, that to avoid some of those really steep assessments, if we could look at it more as an overall project instead of individual alleys.
Yeah, so basically, I think you're proposing to average across the whole project for, and I think that makes a lot of sense. That was one of my questions. Of course, when you do that, when you've got the lower assessment ones, they're going to pay more, and the higher assessment ones then in that will pay less. And so that's definitely going to bring some feedback back to us on that. But I think it makes sense.
But if
Well, I know there was some hardships with the alleys the last time, because we did have one area over by Lift Station 1, I think it was in that general area, that there were very few houses that they got very spendy. And I think as a council, you know, as good stewards of the taxpayers' money, I think we have to look at this at all angles and reevaluate. Especially when it gets to those points where this probably needs to be done. People are going to be happy to have it done. But those are just way too high.
if we add that $400,000 into this project to offset those assessments,
That would bring it down dramatically.
that would bring it down
Yeah.
palatable. You know, and like you said, do it over the, you know, an average over the
Project
entire,
area.
instead of
Yeah.
one's got 6 and one's got 10. Do it the same amount like we do in the streets, so that every house pays the same amount, and every house would pay the same amount. I think that only makes sense. And again, that $400,000 would really help.
Yeah, that's what I think.
For sure, and you know, all the residents in the city are already paying
Right.
on that bond balance. So, I mean, we can mitigate the impact directly to the residents on this assessed part for sure.
Right. That 400,000 would really drop it down. And again,
Take a
average
good
it
chunk
out.
of the storm sewer portion of it.
I think
do
this
something.
council has done a really good job looking at things to make it more equitable and make it more focused to what our needs are. And definitely, storm sewer is a need here.
Well, and the storm sewer costs are going to be borne out of, or bared or whatever, out of the
Out of
storm
the
sewer fund.
utilities, yeah.
So that 400,000, we don't need necessarily to take care of that piece of it, because we've already got adequate cash reserves, as I understand, to cover that aspect of it. More looking at how to deal with this, and if we do throw that in there, it definitely makes sense. Looking backwards, we've never established a policy where, we could easily, a lot of communities do this. I'm not saying we should do it. I'm just saying, if we changed our policies regarding some of these things and built up a fund longer over time by adding additional taxation into the mix, that could mitigate this across this area here. But again, it's kind of like, I always have a hard time making dramatic shifts in this type of stuff when we've said fast with so many people in the past. It's difficult for me, being around for as long as I have, to go back on what we've done in the past and trying to mitigate it forward. These last 9 alleys, if we go through with this project, I think we should. We also, I think, should really thoughtfully look at, what do we want to do long-term to provide funding for this down the road? Because in many of these cases, when we went to concrete, we're talking about a 50-year accumulation before we have to do it again. And that would be it's still somebody's money out of their pocket, but it would be significantly less down the road when it comes to reconstructing these again.
Even if we didn't do the whole 400,000 against this project, say take half of it and put it on the project and half in we'll call it the bank, the street fund, whatever you want to call it, just something to help mitigate the cost, because that's a lot of money that we're being assessed for an alley. And you talk to some of these people and they tell me it's an alley and I'm getting charged $6,000 to $8,000 for an alley. And I agree, the concrete costs a lot of money. You go put your driveway in, you're going to spend a ton of money. But they look at this as an alley. This is the city's, not mine. It's the city's. And they keep saying, why do I have to pay for this alley? It should be spread across the entire city. Everybody has use of it. They can use it. The garbage trucks use it, and the same with out in front of my house. Anybody in town can use the street out in front of my house. And they bring that up. It should be borne across the entire city, not just me alone. So, we need to do something with that 400 grand. And if it's to help this project, then that's what we need to do. That's what it was for. That was what the bond was for.
And we're limited on the time with which we can reallocate that money. We have to spend it somewhere.
Right. We have till what, the end of 2025?
Yep.
We met our thresholds on it, but I think that we had already talked, and I think that this is a very adequate usage of that residual.
So I do have a question on some of your grading here. I see all the grading coming up is all in red, so it doesn't denote negative nor positive. And so on some of these things, as I'm looking through this, and I need some more time to go through it, we just have to be really, 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 really cautious regarding taking any of this new drainage plan and putting any of it back out onto the property owners themselves, because that can cause just horrific problems.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
We
just can-
found that out last time, yeah.
We can just go back to First Avenue over here, way back when that street was flooded and it would go up into the people's yards. We did not have the storm capacity to take care of that, and luckily we did. And I don't know how much we're at percentage-wise for filling that up, and when was the last time that was cleaned out?
Well, that's a really good point, because, like, for example, one of the solutions we deployed there was allowing permeable manhole covers, because when you get that much water going in there, part of the problem is going to be that the air that it's displacing has got to go someplace. And if you've got water coming in at the same time, you're just basically going to cause just a huge pressure gradient that
Right.
in those large floods, you know, because these are probably planning for, you know, probably 75 to 100-year rain events, right? And so specifically to what we had over there off of First Avenue Northwest, getting creative in that's good. I definitely am a huge supporter of putting additional storm capacity specifically in some of these middle sections, which is usually where we have the problems, because you get streets here, everything sinks down, it's going to cause a natural thing. And if we can get that underground and manage it, it's going to definitely mitigate the impact to the above ground structures. So
It's eventually got to get to the storm drain, whether it goes from the alley to the street to the storm drain, it's going to go there sometime. And if we can help to put that underground to ease that.
and not even just to the storm drain, but to the whole system to
Right.
get out of town.
Right. And maybe that'll be Nick's job to find out when was the last time First Avenue Northwest was cleaned out, because I know last time I think it was done with Don Peterson was here, and we had that cleaned out. There was a lot of sand in there, and that'll reduce capacity.
Well, and I guess Nick could probably speak to this more, but since those days, Public Works is also taking a much more aggressive approach to cleaning those areas and put them on a regular schedule, where in that schedule, this, as I understand it, didn't really exist before. It was kind of like, we got a problem, we're going to address it. Now, being proactive is the way to do it.
Right. Right. A lot of street sweeping.
Well, and in that, it goes to some of the other parts, you know, sometimes, you know, just people mowing their grass and blowing the grass out into the street. I mean, that has, nobody likes to be talked to when they're blowing their stuff out in the street, but it does have far-reaching consequences
Yes, it does.
outside of your inconvenience of running your mower the other direction. And we still, I mean, we all see it all the time. People just blow their stuff out into,
And I mow mine right back into the yard.
yep, me too.
And I see, I see that all the time. People just, that and blowing the snow out there.
So I guess, you know, I'm in favor of seeing additional information and seeing some design things that will give us an opportunity to be more critical as we move this project ahead. So I got to find the right area as far as a recommended motion here, but basically.
103.
Page 103, awesome, boom, boom. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the attached resolution, receiving the feasibility report and calling for the improvement hearing for the 2025 alley project.
Okay, I got a motion by Councilmember Schultz to adopt the attached resolution. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Councilmember Hallstrom. Any further discussion?
The only other discussion I would like to make is that some of the dialogue from this evening regarding some of the additional bond revenue that we're looking at potentially mitigating some of these to bring some of those assessments down.
Spreading across the,
And then spreading across there, so that the public understands what we're doing versus here's what your assessments are, and then we're not working out a plan to try to help with that. Because that's how, I mean, we all know, that's how, I mean, us as residents, that's how we're gonna think when we get thrown a $10,000 bill for, you know, a small six-person alley. That's an awful lot of money.
Well, we did that, or you did that, the council did that on the project where I'm at.
Yep.
Looked at alternatives, and it turned out great. You know, we did spot curb repair, we did reclamation, and it brought the cost down. So at least the council was listening, and with the help of some neighbors, we got it done.
Poppy, if I may, what I'm hearing from council, and I think this is good direction to utilize some additional city funds to offset the assessments. Is there a target per unit assessment amount that the council would like to see at the public hearing? Like some different scenarios that I can run for council consideration? I don't want to make assumptions and only give you part of the story when you were thinking that you were going to get 3 different scenarios. If I can get some direction on that, that would be very helpful.
I think the challenge, sorry, Mr. Mayor, I think the challenge with it is that we don't know what the impact of changing the parameters of this are going to actually be. So, I mean, we could go out and say, you know, we'd love everybody's alley assessment to be
Zero.
$0,000.
Zero, 1,500, yeah.
Or whatever. But again, trying to be fair to everybody else that's already been down this process, where I don't know where we'd go. I mean, I would be open to using, you know, a large majority of the remaining fund balance to bring that part down. and this, but not to cover the city's cost of the storm aspect of it, because we already have those funds allocated, and we don't need to backfill for that to cover that. I think that would be disingenuous.
I think if we present this in a way where we're saving the city money as opposed to saving the residents' money, there's no way we should do that. But this has to go towards trying to bring those assessments down.
Well, and I guess it's also important to point out that the city, all the city's money is already from the residents
Correct.
to begin with.
Yeah,
So
Correct.
everything's
But
from the-
perception
Yeah,
is,
it's
you understand what I'm saying? Like,
identifying the current funding pots that we have to bring
Yeah,
this.
and I think too, I mean, to your question, without putting a dollar value to it, I think if we can look at what the assessments have been across the board for everyone those last few projects, using as much as the money as that, and then say we could kick in a little bit more and lower to here, then it's, it would be similar expense for everyone.
But don't we have to use that 400,000 by the end of 2025?
So perhaps my motion was premature. I don't know that we have all the necessary numbers to be able to do your hearing. But the problem is that if we push this off, everything else gets pushed back, and that's already a challenging point for me. So,
But we still have a meeting to go. We have one more before that assessment, before that hearing.
Mayor Poppy, if I
hearing's
may.
on November 7th, isn't it? So we would have another meeting before that?
Yes.
Well, that's the 25th, so we're,
it'd be the
we're just into October. We still have the first meeting in November,
It's the 12th.
the
But to
12th.
publish it wouldn't be until December.
But yeah,
the
because,
notice period.
and I would have to have an agenda ready by the 6th
Mayor
of
Poppy.
November for the 12th. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, that's okay. Mayor Poppy, Council, if I may, there's certainly, the way you proceed with a public hearing and with the assessment methodology put forward in the feasibility report certainly doesn't tie the council's hands, as we know from this year's street improvement project. It doesn't tie the council's hands as far as what that you would stick with an 80% assessment as shown in here. The council may want to consider that if we proceed with a vote that the council member Schultz had put forward as a motion, that in the public hearing, the council memo for that public hearing could include some funding scenarios that the council could consider, and also would show the residents that the council is looking at alternatives to away from that 80% assessment. So you could certainly still proceed with that public hearing. It doesn't tie the council's hands to this assessment methodology. We can provide some options, and I think that actually might be a nice conversation for residents to hear the council go through at the public hearing as far as what direction you would like to go with assessment methodology. Just a suggestion.
And Mayor, too, I could just add that, of course, those assessments, you have until the assessment hearing to actually finalize those. So that's a ways out.
Yeah.
The hearing in November is for the improvements, and assessments are, as Allison said, are discussed all along, but you still have some time before the
Yeah, 'cause
assessment
you don't
hearing.
have the final bids yet,
Right.
so I mean, you
Right.
can't have the hearing until you have the
So,
bid
I mean,
opening.
based on the additional dialogue, I'm comfortable proceeding ahead with
Okay.
the motion that I made at this time.
And I'm fine with the second.
Okay, we're good with that? Okay, any further discussion? See none, attorney teaching, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This is resolution number 64. Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
Councilmember Holstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember Schultz.
Aye.
Councilmember Cook.
Aye.
Mayor Poppy.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Thank you for the detail. Appreciate it. All right, 10B, approve delinquent utility waste certification.
So according to Mayor and Council, according to Osseo City Code, 51.37 allows delinquent accounts for utilities to be assessed to property owners. It also states that the amount certified shall include late payment penalties and administrative charges, and the amount shall bear interest as determined by council resolution. This is all property owners with delinquent amounts due to the City of Osseo and Walters Refuse and Recycling as of September 1st. Were notified by letter of a pending assessment by mail on September 17th. The city accounts are for water, sanitary, sewer, and storm utility services. Walters Refuse and Recycling accounts are for garbage, recycling, yard waste disposal services that are given to residential properties. As part of the current agreement with waste haulers, the city assists in collecting delinquent garbage costs by certifying delinquent waste accounts as allowed by Minnesota Statute 443.015. And unpaid by November, or if unpaid by November 22nd, the amount in the certified column will be assessed to the Hennepin County property taxes along with 14 months of interest at a rate of 5.8%. Assessments must be adopted by resolution, which is also connected here, and staff is asking that you approve delinquent utilities and waste certification.
Mr. Mayor, I just have a kind of a question and a comment. As I'm looking through the delinquencies, there's a lot of very low delinquencies that are out there, so I can't discount on some level that there might be a clerical error, and not necessarily, and just, you know, maybe somebody didn't, you know, I think here's one here for $1.95.
Right.
So I don't have any issue proceeding ahead with this, but I would like to ask that we look potentially into the future about maybe setting a minimum assessment. So like if you're, you know, that $1.95 person, I mean, it's not going to kill the city to hang on to that for, you know, a little bit of time and let them catch up on that, because they're going to be paying late fees anyway. So, but, you know, we have to get some of this stuff taken off of there. There's a couple big ones, and then there's a lot of small ones, which kind of caught me and was like, I'm not really sure where this came from. But so that's just a conversation I'd like to have, you know, going into next year is like, do we want to set a minimum before this stuff moves ahead? And it would just help with, it would help with this whole thing, in my opinion.
There's a lot of $20 and $30 ones. A lot.
And they may have been paid since the letters went out, and they just haven't been updated in here yet, so.
You know, I mean, my address is on here for like $37, and so of course I'm like, I don't do the bills in my house. I'm like, how are we $45 or $30 behind? I'm just like, I have no clue. My wife's like, I don't know. So she went up and looked at it, and it just happened to be that our city accountant wasn't here that day, and it was not easy for the staff to locate where this X number of dollars came from. So, you know, getting this out there, getting these notices out there for people to do it, you know, there's always some chronic offenders you're going to see on this list, people that just legitimately don't pay the utilities and just gets getting tacked on and keep getting tacked on and getting tacked on. And so, I mean, we have to make the city right, because, and we're looking at this, what are we talking about? What's this over amount of the assessment altogether? I think I had
Like
22 on one
27,000.
side, 4,000 on another, so like $28,000. If,
2 and 4,600.
so, I mean, and there's, you know, there's a couple in here that are, I think I did see, yeah, there's a $2,000 one, $1,000 one. So those are really the big ones, but I mean, we definitely have to go through this just, you know, for the residents. If you've got an outstanding thing, please try to get that caught up. And if you can't, well, then they'll just defray that over the cost and add it onto your.
Till the 22nd.
Yeah.
There are also, Mr. Mayor, excuse me, there's also some that are duplicated, and I don't know if that's because there's no names attached with the property, the PIDs versus names. It's hard to know if there's multiple utilities in default, or if there's an accidental repeat on there.
But I know from list to list, one of them is utility, and then the other one is waste too. So
Yeah, if you're looking at that.
There was one duplicate I remember seeing, just a short, maybe 3 or 4 lines apart. So,
and maybe some of those actually have multiple property PIDs. Maybe they've got a split lot or you know, something like that too. So that could account for
Multiple
that.
buildings
Multiple buildings, yeah.
on the utility side.
So as long as we can, you know, put out a request to revisit the minimum part of this, you know, going into the next assessment cycle, I'm comfortable making a motion to adopt the resolution certifying delinquent utility charges, waste removal charges against specified properties as presented in Exhibits A and B, with specific attention paid to the fact that none of this will get assessed if you pay up by November 22nd.
Yep, got a motion by Councilmember Schultz to approve delinquent utility and waste certification and alerting of the November 22nd date. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Councilmember Hallstrom. Any further discussion? Non-attorney teaching, please.
Councilmember Holstrom?
Aye.
Councilmember Schultz?
Aye.
Councilmember Cook?
Aye.
Councilmember Hall?
Aye.
Mayor Poppy?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. That was resolution number 65.
It was, yes.
All right, 10C, approve letter of intent with Red Pine Group.
Mayor, Council, we had a work session on September 30th where we gave direction to explore a letter of intent with that Red Pine Group. This, if you remember correctly, will be for the dispensary. We had our city attorney and Red Pine Group did sit down and had a long conversation. And I guess that this letter of intent is what has come out of that conversation. And our attorney has looked it over and I believe agrees. So,
Mayor and Council, that's correct. I did provide, I know I provided to Shane a red line version. I don't know if that was distributed, but the clean copy is fine. The only point I was going to make is that it looks a lot different than the original. So I'm certainly happy if there's questions about this, but we are in agreement. And on the basic terms, of course, this is really a non-binding kind of document. It's just setting the preliminary game plan of the relationship going forward. So it's not a binding contract.
And I do believe, Mr. Mayor, that I heard that they were very easy to work with.
They were very flexible. We explained some of our concerns about that were unique to working with municipalities, like provisions about confidentiality and other things that we just couldn't agree to. And they understood. They didn't have a problem with revising the letter. And so, yeah, they were very cooperative and easy to work with.
Any further questions? If not, we look for a motion.
I move to, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the letter of intent with Red Pine.
Okay, got a motion by Councilmember Cook to approve the letter of intent with Red Pine. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Schultz. Any further discussion?
I just want to know, did the Cannabis Committee go over this with the city attorney?
We had the opportunity to provide input several steps along the
Okay.
way.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, 10D, approve accounts payable.
I have some questions.
Yep.
I just want to make one point first, that I see that CenterPoint Energy now is all natural gas and not electric.
I was told it was all taken care of.
It
And that
is.
it is.
It is.
It is.
It
All right.
is.
I was so afraid. I was like, did you go over
That's the
this?
first thing I looked
And
at.
she's like, absolutely. I made the changes. I made the corrections. I'm like, so yes, I'm so glad.
I'm sure a lot of that just had to be with, data entry that was
Right,
pre-existing.
right,
It just
Yeah.
slipped through.
And then the garage door again on the PD department, didn't we just do that like 2 months ago?
No, well, we've got 3 of them.
You got 3 garage doors.
Yeah, one of them, the spring broke.
Spring broke. Okay, so we have another
Just another spring.
Metal
spring
fatigue.
sprung.
Metal fatigue.
I don't know.
And then I talked to Allison, and I'd like to know that, if, when we're paying the engineer, if we could somehow, maybe in a memo or email or something, we can get broken down what we're paying for. If it's actual engineering services or if we're paying for X, Y, Z, something so that we can see the line item instead of just a chunk of money, $100 and some thousand. If it's all just professional fees, for WSB's engineers, that's fine. But if it can be broken down a little bit, I'd like to see that.
Any other questions? We look for a motion.
Motion to approve the accounts payable.
I got a motion by Councilmember Schultz to approve tonight's accounts payable. Is there a second?
Second.
And by Councilmember Hall. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, 10E. So,
This will be the HR committee is asked to go into a closed session.
Motion to approve moving into the closed session.
yeah, we got a
Mayor and Councilmember Schultz, could you please include the statutory citation in your motion?
231.
Section 1.
Yep, so staff recommends going into closed session, city council pursuant to Minnesota statutes, is that 130.05?
13D.
13D.
Okay, sorry. Yep, that's a D, that's for sure.
Subdivision 2B.
Subdivision 2B.
B.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilmember Schultz to go in closed session per the stated Minnesota statute, seconded by Councilmember Hall. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We are in the closed session at 8:57. Closed session, we're back in open session here of the city council meeting at 9:25 PM. And from that, we'd like to make a motion. The motion is to authorize the city attorney to retain an investigator to investigate the preliminary allegations against Shane Michelson. I'd look for a motion to approve that.
So moved.
We got a motion by Councilmember Schultz. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Councilmember Hallstrom. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, administrator report.
None.
Council and attorney's report. Attorney June.
I have no report tonight.
Okay, Councilmember Hallstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a couple of things. LMC is holding Mayor for the Day. Applications are being taken through LMC. So if you know of somebody that wants to be Mayor for the Day, have them contact LMC or myself for further information. It's Greek Oxy Day, which means protection. So protection to all of you. Thank you to the staff for the early voting. I was here during a time when there were several other voters, and it went very smoothly. And I'm proud that our staff has come together and did such a great job with that. Thank you to the Lions Club and everybody else involved with the Halloween celebrations. Again, that was a good community outpouring. And lastly, last week, LMC held fall forums. There were 7 webinars. They were all excellent webinars, and I was able to attend 6 of the 7. And there is one that Administrator Michelson and I discussed today that could be very pertinent to the people involved in our new website transfer. A lot of entities that have to be involved and a lot of rules that have to be followed and things that I wasn't aware of. And with that, I'll pass.
Daylight saving time is coming up this weekend, so remember, in the spring, you spring your clock ahead, in the fall, you fall back. And it's a great time to check the batteries in your smoke detectors and your carbon monoxide detectors, because remember, this carbon monoxide is a silent deadly killer, and it doesn't necessarily happen in the wintertime. I can speak by experience. A water heater malfunctioned and we had carbon monoxide in our house in the summertime. And it's also a great time to check the pressure relief valve on your water heater. Those are, or can be, a very hazardous item. It's just a little lever. You just check it to make sure that it's working. If it's not working, call a plumber to make sure, because that can build up a lot of pressure. Voting is coming up next, a week from tomorrow. Please remember to vote. I just want people to vote. Vote for what you want to do, not what I want. It's up to you. You vote. Think about who you're voting for. Get some information. Don't believe everything you think you hear on the internet, because the internet is not where you get your source of information. I'm sorry, but it's not. There's a lot of other things I'd like to say tonight, but I'm not going to. I'll leave that for later on. And again, the park over by the elementary school is being utilized by great numbers of people. It's fantastic. And again, I believe in November we'll have a Park and Recs Committee meeting. And hopefully then we'll be able to discuss maybe something about Sipes Park, just getting a facelift or something, at least getting the tennis courts, making those pickleball courts, or whatever we have to do to upgrade that park. So it's as great a park as the one at the elementary school. And hopefully soon there'll be ice skating over at the elementary school.
Not too soon.
Say what?
Hopefully not too soon.
Well, I'm all for ice fishing, so I like ice. But yeah, you know, make the lakes frozen up north and then green grass down here. And again, like we talked about earlier, please don't blow your leaves and grass onto the street. Keep them in your yard. With that, I'll pass.
Councilmember Cook.
Not much. Just thank you to the Lions for the Halloween event. It was incredible as always. Obviously, Mother Nature really helped us out this year. It was a beautiful day. It was. I know the events like that. On behalf of the people that are small business owners on Central Avenue, events like that just really are fantastic for those businesses, and just bring a lot of people in, and so it's really great, and it's a great event, and I'm glad we approved our Small Business Saturday permit tonight and things like that, because these are the types of events that just the mini dazzle coming up that just get people excited about our little town. So thank you to them, and with that I yield.
The only thing I have is just kind of reiterate what everybody else has said, but the biggest one I want to highlight has to do with community-based events. It's the opportunity for our neighbors to invite their friends into town to really see what a phenomenal place we all live in every day. So, thank you.
Just general announcements. City offices will be closed on Monday, November 11th, in observation of Veterans Day. So make sure you thank a veteran for their service. You should thank them every day, but especially on that day. So with that, moving on, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Schultz, seconded by Councilmember Hall. Non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We're adjourned at 9:32.
So our